Okay, so the next strategy we're going to talk about is actually buying a Facebook group and or an Instagram account. So really the purpose of this video is to discuss the strategy of purchasing community access via Facebook groups or Instagram accounts. So here's the idea, right? We basically reach out to these Facebook groups and or we'll get into a tool on how to access Instagram accounts for sale. And we purchase them. And really the thought here and the benefit here is that you can skip the audience building phase. If you were to go build up from scratch an Instagram account and or a Facebook group that's been around for a year, 2 years, 3 years plus, it's a lot of time, energy, and effort to go into that with minimal payback until you really get into a substantial size. So with this approach, you kind of skip that phase entirely. You leverage the embedded trust, so it's all those benefits of working with influencers or Facebook groups on a partnership level, but you basically have direct access to that now. And then you avoid the hassle of navigating promotions, right? You don't need to ask for permission. You don't need to say, hey, I'm running a launch and I want to do a story post or I want to do a post in the group. You skip all that because you own the asset and you can do with it as you wish. And then the final thing is you can actually target those audience members with actual ad campaigns after the fact and create audiences out of those groups and or Instagram accounts. So we'll start off with the Facebook group strategy on buying a Facebook group. The general strategy here we should know is actually against Facebook terms of service. So per Facebook terms of service, you cannot sell and or purchase a group. The way that Facebook looks at it is that they actually own it. You're riding on their coattails and on their platform. So even the moderators that created it and that have admin access to that account, it's actually not their right to sell it. So you're definitely operating outside of terms of service, but it absolutely can happen and is done. But the general strategy for us with that caveat kind of laid down is that we want to identify strong Facebook groups. And really this is done by using your existing Facebook group pipeline that you've cultivated, that you've been a part of, to really identify the strongest communities. So you should have a pretty decent idea, if you've been participating for months in a community, how good it is. So maybe it's got 10,000 people in the group, but are they actually active? Is there posts? Is it high quality content? Are the audience members high quality? The other thing is if you've run promotions, so say that you've already interacted with the moderator before, you've run promotions, that's the ideal scenario because you can understand how much traffic, how many leads, how many sales, etc. you may have cultivated through some of those promotional efforts. Then the next step is basically to reach out to the admins with your proposal. Again, this is why it's easier if you've already worked with them before on previous campaigns, because you can be like, look, here's the deal. We ran a couple of promotions with you. I absolutely love this group. I'd actually like to purchase it from you. You haven't really monetized this a whole lot yet. You've just put in the blood, sweat, and tears labor into managing this. I actually want to buy it from you and give you an outcome where you've actually got some money in your pocket. And by the way, you can still be an admin, you can still be a moderator, you can have them maintain the exact responsibilities that they had before, but you just own the asset and are able to use the asset. So you reach out, mention your interest in purchase, discuss the high level terms. There's really not a whole lot of market data on this. You kind of just have to suss out, what the fair value is. And the fair value is going to be what they're willing to part with. And does that number make sense for you? They're incredibly cheap. I don't think that moderators really know the value of them. So typically you can get away with like $50 to $150 per 1,000 members. So, if it's a 10,000 member group, $500, $1,000 is pretty, conceivable. And that's typically a pretty good payday for somebody that started it from scratch a couple years ago. And then basically, if you've kind of agreed to terms, you can drop a contract if you'd like, or just have it in writing. Again, it's a little bit hard to enforce that legally because you're actually not, trading an asset that the other person owns. But if you want to put together like a paper agreement just to at least pin them down a little bit, you can. And then you basically want to send the money via PayPal. And this is really your best recourse, is that you want to use the business method of sending via PayPal, because if you don't get the admin access to the account or something happens where they don't do their end of the bargain, you can actually file a claim and get that money back. So you definitely want to use that security of a PayPal business. And then you basically want to make sure that there's an admin access that's granted to your Facebook account that you want to use for that particular group. And then you basically, you don't necessarily need to run the day-to-day or do anything outside of what the normal admins and moderators do. But what you now have access to is you could change the header to your brand if you want. You could do monthly deals. You could do launches. You can take the emails if it's a private group and leverage the emails, which is a huge benefit for email targeting as well as for creating Facebook lookalike audiences and the like when you're launching products. But that is now your asset to use as you wish. So that is buying a Facebook group. The one that's a lot more kind of legit, I would say, because it's aligned with terms of service and there's a lot more scalable ways to do it because there's platforms and marketplaces when you can buy them, is actually using a service called FameSwap. You can obviously reach out directly to Instagram accounts if you wish in your niche and just see if people are interested in potentially selling. And that's a possibility, but this makes it super easy because you know what is actively for sale. So I'm gonna hop over here to my computer and you can just see what this looks like. Fameswap.com is the URL. I'm a premium member. I think it's $50 a month, and I just basically get to see all the new listings that crop up. You can look at this for free, but you won't actually see the name of the account and you won't be able to search via keywords. You'll just be able to look at categories. So I always recommend, if you're doing this, for the first time, just get an account maybe for a month and just see what's available in your niche, and then you can cancel the account. You don't need to necessarily have this on a monthly basis. I kind of like it because I've usually involved in multiple brands that I've started or other ones that I kind of consult with. So I like to see all these different niches and kind of search over time because it's not static for sale stuff. There's always new stuff being kind of added and sold on this platform, so it tends to turn over quite a bit. But with the pro account, what you can basically do is you can actually kind of see the names of stuff, which is obviously super valuable. So, if you look at this, if I had a pet brand, Lovely Cats and Dogs, it's got 125,000 followers. It's $2,500, not too bad, right? But what you can do, obviously, is in your actual niche, you can use keywords. So obviously, I'm going to come in here and do golf. Hit that, and there's one that's available for sale. Looks like you can see the type of account, Instagram, the audience size is 17,000, and they're asking a measly $385, and it was listed 3 months ago. You can also search by Instagram, YouTube, TikTok as well. So let's just click on this guy and just see what it looks like. Typically what I want to do is I want to just kind of see what the actually this, just looking here, this is actually VW Golf the car, so this isn't Golf the sport. So at this time there's no golf oriented brands other than the car one. So let's just find another one. Let's just do pets and see what we find. All right, so here we go. You can kind of see all of these guys. There's a TikTok account there. Just kind of scroll down. Pet Lovers Fans is $100. You kind of get the idea. There's a decent amount of these if you had a pet brand that you could run into. Let's just see what the next page is. So yeah, I mean, what I'm kind of looking for is I'm not going to do this one that's like XUV9. I want it to have like a name that actually is somewhat punchy, not weird. That's probably my first criteria. And then I want to look at kind of the audience size and then the dollar amount. So that's like the surface level thing to determine whether or not I would be interested. So let's say I've got like a cat oriented brand. Let's just look at this one for fun so you can see like the second layer analysis that we can do. Just click on that Happy Cat Show. We can see there's 252,000 followers. The price is $3,900. It was listed about 3 months ago. And then you can kind of see the posts. You can see the engagement here. The higher the engagement, obviously, the better. So this is only getting 10 comments per post, but the average likes is 1,300, so that's not too bad. You can actually see the report of where the audience is located, which is obviously super important when you're an Amazon seller, because if you've got a bunch of European or Asian or Central American people that are fans of this Instagram account, it doesn't do you any good if you're selling in the US. So it lets you, with the premium account, download 3 reports per day. So let's just go ahead and see what this one looks like for fun. The engagement's a little bit low, so I definitely want to negotiate the price on this one, but obviously it's a pretty substantial follower base. Let's just see if they've got a lot of people based in the US. So you can see the trend, which is good. So you want to see that obviously increasing or not like shrinking a ton. Most of these that are for sale on FameSwap are people that like started them, grew up the following, and then they're like kind of, I wouldn't say dying, but they're not necessarily like the hottest assets a lot of the time. They're trying to sell it just to kind of make some money out of it. We're not necessarily too concerned about that. If we can use it for a year or two, it's not that big of a deal. And you can see again whether the likes have gone up or down. So this is definitely on the downtrend. That would be a negative. You can see the lookalike accounts as well. The credibility is kind of cool. So you want it to have more credibility than this. It means that they're not like buying fake followers. Again, here's what's really cool is that you can see the age and gender split. So again, you want this to align pretty well with your customer archetype. So if I'm selling pet products or cat products on Amazon, I'm probably not targeting 18-year-old females as a primary audience. It's probably somewhere in this upper range here. So that's something to keep in mind. Then you can see here the location, right? So there's only 11% that are based in the market that I want to sell in. So basically what you want to do is you want to kind of take your markets that you actually sell on Amazon in and you apply that to the follower count. So I think this was like 250,000 or something like that. So basically there's only like 25,000 of that we actually have in our kind of target archetype customer base, which would be a downside. So you want to kind of orient as much of that into the follower count of where you're actually going to sell. And then it's just got some similar topics here again, lookalikes here, the hashtags that they've used, and then more hashtags that they've used here. It's got the gender split at the bottom, the English versus Spanish versus all these other languages, so that's super important as well. So it's got some good stuff there, and this is just the age split, male split, and then more detail by country. And then it also has within the United States what their percentage is by state, if you really care about that. So that's the report you get. I wouldn't go for this one personally. If this one had like way more concentration, it was growing, it had other things going for it, you could probably justify that price. But I wouldn't pay that for this one. Let's just go home and to the homepage and click on this one that was featured. This was just listed 1 week ago. Tend to find the ones that have been released newer tend to be a little bit better. If they've been around for 2, 3, 4 months, there's typically a reason. And so you can usually either get a really screaming deal on them or it's just not that great of an asset. So these guys here have no engagement. So these guys aren't very good at all. I wouldn't even look at this one. This one's interesting. Let's look at this one for fun because it's actually targeted to a specific breed of dog, which could be pretty powerful for archetyping. See, here you go, engagement 8%. So the more niche and impassioned the audience is, which is why we really want to focus on archetypes, typically the more value you're going to get here. So if you've got a product, let's say you're doing a dog harness that's for a bit of a bigger dog, and in your image, you've got a golden retriever, buying this would be freaking awesome because you could totally have fish in a barrel in terms of contacts. And it's 100,000 followers for $1,500. It's a pretty dang good deal. Let's go ahead and download this sample. All right, so let's look at this report. Just summarizes there, 105,000 followers, the average likes. Can see the followers has dropped a little bit, but not too crazy. It's like whatever, 1,000 or something. That's not too bad. The likes are down a little bit, but nothing too crazy. Got the median engagement 6%. That's really good. The interests are good. All the hashtags align well. You can see how the lookalike audiences are other golden retriever oriented accounts. Credibility's okay. It's not perfect, but it's okay. You can kind of see here the age breakdown. Instagram's always going to be a little bit younger, but this one's definitely on the young side and female, so we'd have to keep that in mind. Most of our buyers on Amazon would probably be these last 3 buckets. United States is almost a third of the follower count, so I think that's super good, especially if you're selling in the US marketplace, obviously. It's got some similar accounts, audience lookalike accounts. It's got some more demographic breakdown, healthy amount of English speakers, which you always want to see. The majority be English speakers, and then this is the similar age split that we've seen. And then you've got the country. So again, there's 28,000 followers from the US. I think that's solid. And then you can kind of see the actual state breakdown here, which is kind of nice. So there's no like major red flags here, right? I mean, you're never going to find like a flawless, amazing Instagram account here typically, unless you want to spend big bucks. But for the money, I think this one would definitely be a winner, especially if I had products oriented around medium to larger size dogs, which golden retrievers are. And then you can just see the popular posts. So it's a lot of puppies. This would be fairly easy to have a VA do. They could go find other ones to repost on the web and stuff. So there's not a whole lot of like novel content, which I think is a bonus too. It could be pretty easy to integrate this. So yeah, I think this one's solid for sure. And then if we were to end up finding that this worked, the cool thing about FameSwap is it uses an escrow service, so you don't have to worry about somebody stealing your money. And if the account doesn't get transferred, your money doesn't get transferred to the current owner. So you can change all that stuff over. And then you can basically take on the account and use with it as you please. Typically, what you're going to use as an Amazon seller is you're going to integrate your product offerings, especially launches, promotions, things like that, into the story content. And so that's typically where you're going to have like swipe up stories, which would go to your actual Amazon listing. Again, even if they don't buy, you're sending those external traffic signals and all those things that Amazon likes as well. You can also use an Amazon affiliate account. It's technically against Amazon's terms of service to do so, but you could have your own separate Amazon affiliate account and send that traffic. The reason being is primarily that any links that come from influencers, which we'll get into in the influencer section on what those links are, Amazon gives a lot of credit for those. Again, I think that they look at it like social signals, external traffic. They love it when influencers send traffic to Amazon. So if you take an affiliate account, whether it's yours or somebody else's, and you connect it to any of those stories that you have swipe up that go to your product, when you get traffic there and ultimately purchases, Amazon's going to heavily reward your listing in terms of organic rank for doing so. And if it is your affiliate account, you also get a bit of a spiff in terms of commission for it. But if you want to avoid the risk, since it's technically against Amazon's terms of service, you can just find somebody that's an influencer, be like, hey, I just want to use your affiliate account to send traffic from this Instagram account that I purchased, because I can't technically do it. You keep all the commissions. Deal? Of course they're going to do it. So you can get them to create links for you and post on stories. The one thing you do have to keep in mind with this is you'll probably want to have a content strategy so it doesn't die. I mean, you still want to have regular posting, stories, etc. on the same cadence that the current owner had if you want to maintain that growth and engagement. So have that in the back of your mind. You'll likely want to have somebody on your team, ideally a VA, that can come in here and help cultivate content. They can use Canva to do this pretty easily, but you want to have that. And then the current owner also might let you know how they've done it, whether they did it themselves or they had resources. You can even talk with them about a potential ongoing agreement for say 3 to 6 months, where you pay them or whoever they were using to continue to run the account. And all you want to do is jump in with promotional strategy for your brand on Amazon to integrate it into stories, etc. So those two strategies are great. It's much harder to buy a Facebook account, and it's a little bit more of a gray territory, but can still be done. But obviously kind of finding and accessing Instagram accounts through places like FameSwap, if it's a broader niche especially, tends to be a pretty good strategy. Again, you can also reach out to accounts. It's just much more hit or miss. And then you don't have this escrow and these other kind of layers of protection. So you got to kind of rely on PayPal systems to get your money back if things go awry. But don't see a lot of people talking about this, but this can be an absolutely phenomenal strategy. And are you really going to go build 100,000 followers on Instagram for $1,500? No, you're going to pay some VA who knows how much money over years to do that. So this is a really cool way to shortcut that and use an embedded audience to weaponize for your Amazon business.